And now I want to shift a little bit to the Module 6 sandbox. And this one I call Infinite Snowflakes. And it's not about people with fragile egos or anything like that. Don't worry. It's just actual snowflakes. The nice thing about snowflakes is that they have a nice repetitive pattern. So it gives us an opportunity to use functions. I'm going to show you sort of the level one solution of this, and I'm going to challenge you as you play with the code to see if you can use another function to simplify it. And I'll get into that in just a sec. So if I take this code and I copy and paste that into my editor here, what you'll see here is the typical import turtle. I'm setting up the turtle object, setting up the screen here, making sure it'll exit on, it won't exit until I click on the turtle screen. And I've got a custom function here called makeArm, okay? And it takes one argument called int scale. And what it does is it draws a line of 30 times int scale, turns right 90 degrees, goes forward 2 times int scale, turns right again, and then goes forward 30 times int scale again. You can see that this side of it is the same as this side of it, so already you should be thinking it's some kind of a symmetrical figure. So if I run this, okay, that is the picture that I get. Okay, so it goes forward 30 times int scale, 300, the scale was 10. It goes 2 times, and then it goes back. So that's basically creating a very simple thing. And if I change the scale to 2, for some reason my Python window, my graphics doesn't want to pop to the front right now. That's fine. You can see it makes the same thing, but tinier. So that is my basic, very, very basic function for making an arm. And what you might notice is that I've created an object outside of here and I'm using it inside of here. That is one exception to the Vegas rule, is that things that are defined outside the function can be read or interacted with inside the function. It's just that if you create something here, it can't leave. Okay? So we've got that code is just sort of the basic. I want you to see that. I want you to run it so that you can see what that function does by itself. Because next, we are going to add a whole lot to it. And I'm going to walk through this code for you. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff going on here. Some of it's going to be new to you. Like always, I'm just going to say, let's just roll with it for now, because in a couple of weeks, we'll have covered all of this and it'll make perfect sense to you. But for now, you're just going to have a little trust in me that this is what it is. Okay, so we're importing the random module, we're importing the turtle module, we're creating a turtle object. We've done all this before, that's okay. We're creating a screen. We need to create the screen because we're going to use that screen object to measure the window width, or how many pixels there are from the center of the screen to the side of the screen. I'll get to that in a minute, why we need that, why we need to know a number of pixels vertically and horizontally on the screen. We're also creating a list of colors. We're creating a list of colors because we want to have the ability for the program to randomly pick a color for each snowflake because it makes it more interesting. Now I'm setting turtle speed to 0. 0 is the fastest speed. 0 is the fastest, 1 is the slowest. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 0 is the fastest. I'm not sure why, but that it is just the way turtles behave. Who can explain it? So we've got our exact same function here that we just defined, where we know what it does. It makes a little arm. It takes one argument, and it makes a little arm. So now I know what that does. Once I know what a function does, what I like to do is I like to click on that little minus sign right to the left of it, and I like to collapse it. The code's still there, but I know what it does. I don't have to see it now, so I don't worry about it. So now we've got a while true loop, which is where we get the name infinite snowflakes, because it's just going to go and go and go. There is no break. But this is the main part of our program. Each one of these lines has a very specific purpose, right? What we're doing here, we're saying create a color, and in that variable, we're going to say randomly choose from that list of colors. Just pick one. Every time you run this, it will randomly pick a color and put it in that variable. Then we're going to set the pen color to that color and the fill color that color. Next is a command called turtle.pinup. It's a method that says, just like you would imagine, stop drawing. We're going to move, but we're not going to draw right now. Now, you're going to create two random numbers. Notice we're using random.randint, so we're picking a random integer. And this feels a little bit confusing, but basically what we're saying is whatever the width of the screen is, divided by 2, because the way a turtle works, if I only had a pen, the way a turtle works is 0, 0 in coordinates is the middle of the screen. So if you go to this direction, if you go to the left, then it's negative numbers. If you go to the right, it's positive numbers. So the width of the screen is between, let's say, negative 500 and positive 500. That's what we're doing here. So pixels, if it's 1,000 pixels wide, we divide it in half. We know it's 500 each direction. So negative 500, positive 500. Same with the vertical. We've got whatever the vertical is, cut in half times -1, so negative to positive. So you're going to pick a random integer for the X location and the Y location, which gives us a random location somewhere inside that window. Okay? And it says, turtle, go to that location with the pen up. So it's not going to be drawing, it just goes there. And then it says, okay, now start drawing again. And then we're going to pick one more random number, and it's called int scale 2. And we're just picking that number that we're going to feed into the method for the size of the arm, so we can determine the size of that snowflake. So it'll pick a random number, and it's between 1 and 10, and then it will divide it by 5. And the reason it does that is because if it doesn't divide it by 5, then the snowflakes will be giant snowflakes, and they'll take over the whole window really fast. So this divide by 5 just cuts it back a little bit. You can play around. I encourage you to play around with these numbers to see what kind of impact you have. And then it says begin fill, which says I'm about to draw a shape that we're going to fill up. And then we've got a trusty for loop, for x in range 9, which means it's going to do something 9 times. And 9 times it's going to say turn left 140 degrees and then make an arm. So it's going to left 140 degrees, make an arm, left 140 degrees, make an arm. And then when it finishes all that, it's going to end the fill. And then it will begin up here again with a new random choice, and it'll start creating a new snowflake. So when I run this, okay, then it will begin drawing random colored snowflakes in random locations at random sizes all over the screen. And you can see each one of these little pieces of the snowflake is that function being run over and over and over. Now, There are a few ways that you could use more functions in this to simplify the code, because this while loop has a lot of stuff in it. What you could do is maybe create a function that says draw snowflake, and you could feed it a location and a size if you wanted to, right? So you could give it the x location, the y location, and the int scale, and then it would draw a snowflake at that location. So you could start taking some of the code out here and breaking it out into custom functions. What good is that? It simplifies your code. It makes it easy to change things. It makes it easy to debug. It makes it easy to track what's going on in your code, because something like this isn't necessarily easy to read. Now, if I'm a good programmer, I'm putting comments in here so that I keep track of what I'm doing. So for today's sandbox assignment, I want you to take this code and I want you to play around with it, not just change the colors. I want you to think about, can you change the shape of the snowflake? Can you use functions to further simplify this code? I want you to use it for experimentation and play around and see what results you can come up with. And that really is the process of learning how to manipulate functions